Good morning, brethren, and welcome to our bi-weekly program entitled A Glance at the Word, which is broadcast live on Facebook every Monday and every Wednesday at 8 a.m. West Africa time, which is 7 a.m. GMT. Today is Wednesday, the 20th of April, 2022, and our topic this morning is entitled The Main Reason for Jesus' Trial. The main reason for Jesus' trial. Let's start our teaching by reading in the book of Mark, the Gospel of Mark, chapter 15. The Gospel of Mark, chapter 15, verses 1 to 5. Mark chapter 15, verses 1 to 5. Let's read. Immediately in the morning, the chief priests held a consultation with the elders and scribes and the whole council. And they bound Jesus, led him away, and delivered him to Pilate. Then Pilate asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" He answered and said to him, "It is as you say." And the chief priests accused him of many things, but he answered nothing. Then Pilate asked him again, saying, "Do you answer nothing? See how many things they testify against you." But Jesus still answered nothing, so that Pilate marveled. You see, at the end of his earthly life, at the end of his earthly ministry on this earth, when Jesus was about to complete his supreme mission for which he came down to the earth, the chief priests and the elders of the Jews and the scribes arrested Jesus Christ and handed him over to Pontius Pilate, the governor. They expected Pilate to try Jesus Christ and sentence him to death. You see, we all know, and it is clearly obvious, that Jesus Christ's mission was to die for the sake of the whole mankind. This, everybody knows about it. It is recorded in the Bible. So normally, when the chief priests and the elders of the Jews and the scribes arrested Jesus Christ, it would be much easier for them to just kill him, to just put him to death. Instead, they decided to deliver Jesus Christ to Pilate for Pilate to try him. Was it that indispensable for Jesus Christ to be tried? Couldn't they just kill Jesus without any trial? What was the main reason for that trial? Why did God allow that trial to take place? What actually was the reason, the main reason for that trial? The trial of Jesus Christ. To understand this, let's first go back to the Old Testament times. Let's go back to when Passover had been instituted, because we know that Jesus Christ died on Passover. We know also that Jesus Christ is our Passover lamb. So let's go back to the book of Exodus. Exodus chapter 12, verses 1 to 6. Exodus chapter 12, verses 1 to 6. Now the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be your beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Speak to all the congregation of Israel, saying, on the 10th of this month, every man shall take for himself a lamb according to the house of his father, a lamb for a household. And if the household is too small for the lamb, let him or his neighbor next to his house take it according to the number of the persons. According to each man's need, you shall make your count for the lamb. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. You may take it from the sheep or from the goats. Now we shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month. Then the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it at twilight. So you see, when God instituted Passover, he gave very clear instructions to Moses and Aaron on how the Passover sacrifice had to be made. This sacrifice, the Passover sacrifice, was meant for the deliverance of the people of Israel from Egypt, for the deliverance of the nation of Israel. The Israelites had to eat the flesh of the lamb and put the blood of the lamb on the doorposts and the lintels of the houses. Thus, when the angel of God would pass through the land of Egypt that night and kill all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, he would pass over. This is why it is called Passover. He will pass over the houses on which there was the blood of the lambs, and he would not strike any firstborn in those houses. This Passover sacrifice was then for the deliverance, for the protection and deliverance of the children of Israel, for the deliverance of the whole nation of Israel. In the same way, Jesus is our Passover today. He is our Passover lamb that has been sacrificed for the deliverance of mankind. Not only one nation, but the whole mankind this time. Jesus had to die for the deliverance of all mankind, for the deliverance of all those who accept the work of Jesus Christ as being for their salvation and their deliverance. Now, there is one very important thing that is recorded in the scripture that we just read in Exodus chapter 12 verses 1 to 6. And this is recorded especially in verse 5. Verse 5 that reads something like this: your lamb shall be without blemish. In fact, that is exactly what is written. Your lamb shall be without blemish. This is a very important statement and a very important key characteristic of the lamb that had to be sacrificed on Passover. This lamb had to be without blemish. That's why God insisted on it. God insisted on the fact that the Passover lamb had to be perfect, that the perfect at least in appearance, that in the Old Testament everything was visible, while in the New Testament things are more spiritual. But then the Passover lamb had to be perfect in appearance. It had to be without blemish. And the Passover, our Passover lamb, Jesus Christ, also had to be perfect, without blemish, meaning without sin, without any wrong, without any fault. Our Passover lamb didn't have to be faulty in any way. So our Passover lamb, Jesus Christ, had to be perfect without any blemish. And he actually was. We know that Jesus Christ was actually with a lamb without blemish. But now, you know that nobody ever tried any Passover lamb before killing it. Be it that very first Passover in the land of Egypt or any subsequent Passover, nobody ever tried the Passover lamb before killing it. Yet the priests or the high priest normally had to duly make certain that the Passover lamb was without blemish before they ever sacrificed it. Now let's go to Luke chapter 23. Luke chapter 23, we're going to read first verse 4, then we also read verses 13 to 15. Luke chapter 23, verse 4. So Pilate said to the chief priests and the crowd, I find no fault in this man. I find no fault in this man. Now, verses 13 to 15. Then Pilate, when he had called together the chief priests, the rulers, and the people, said to them, You have brought this man to me as one who misleads the people. And indeed, having examined him in your presence, I have found no fault in this man concerning those things of which you accuse him. No, neither did Herod, for he sent you back to me. For I sent you back to him, and indeed nothing deserving of death has been done by him. You see, Jesus Christ underwent a very, very trying trial. Yes, well, it was actually a trying trial. It was very hard for him to endure this trial. So when the chief priests, the captains of the temple, and the elders of the Jews arrested Jesus, they took him to the high priest with the whole crowd that was there. They took Jesus to the high priest. They brought Jesus into the high priest's house for a hearing. And that hearing took place in the middle of insults, the middle of mockery, the middle of ill treatment of any kind. And from the high priest's house, they took Jesus to the governor's office. They took Jesus to Pontius Pilate. Now Pilate started Jesus' trial. Then, finding no wrong in Jesus. You see, in verse 4 that we read, Pilate clearly said this. Pilate said, I find no fault in this man. I find no fault in this man. So he found no wrong in Jesus. And finding no wrong in Jesus, and since the crowd was shouting that Jesus must be put to death, and discovering that Jesus was from Galilee, Pilate sent Jesus to Herod who was administering Galilee by that time, because on that day Herod was in Jerusalem. So Pilate sent Jesus to Herod only because the people were earnestly asking him to kill Jesus, even though Pilate didn't find any wrong in Jesus. He said, okay, let Herod deal with this matter. Now, Herod continued with the trial of Jesus, but he too found no reason to sentence Jesus to death. And Herod sent Jesus back to Pontius Pilate, who resumed the trial of Jesus, but still could not find any reason either to sentence Jesus to death or to condemn Jesus in any kind. And this time, Pontius Pilate concluded Jesus' trial in saying this to the chief priests, to the rulers, to the captains of the temple, to the people, to the whole crowd that was there. So he solemnly said, "You have brought this man to me as a criminal, yet having tried him, I tried him in your own presence. So you were all witnesses. So having tried him in your presence, I have found no fault and no wrong at all in this man. Neither did Herod. So this man is innocent. This man that you brought to me is innocent." So Pilate declared and solemnly proclaimed the innocence of Jesus Christ. This means that Jesus was officially stated and as being without blemish. So Jesus was solemnly and officially stated as being without blemish. This means that Jesus' trial's only reason was to prove the innocence of Jesus, to state and proclaim that Jesus was the perfect Passover lamb without blemish. Because if that was not stated officially, if that was not noted and stated, it would not be according to what God said, that the Passover lamb had to be without blemish. Here, everybody, the whole crowd standing there, had to make certain, had to be aware, had to know that Jesus Christ was without blemish. That Jesus Christ was the sacrificial Passover lamb without blemish. So the main reason for Jesus' trial was to note and proclaim Jesus' innocence, thus presenting Jesus as the Passover lamb without blemish. And you know, everything that God does is confirmed by 2 or 3 witnesses. And this innocence of Jesus, this Jesus being without blemish, was witnessed, was stated, was noted and witnessed by at least 3 main witnesses. Jesus' innocence was witnessed by the high priest. You remember, the high priest had to make certain that the lamb is without blemish. When they arrested Jesus, they first took him to the high priest. So the high priest witnessed the innocence of Jesus. The innocence of Jesus was attested by Herod. And the innocence of Jesus was attested by Pilate. Of course, the innocence of Jesus was also witnessed by the whole crowd, by the people who were there. So Jesus' trial was to make certain, was to note and proclaim, was to show, to clearly show that Jesus Christ was the Passover lamb without blemish. God bless you abundantly beyond all your expectations.